Hola, mis amigos. I am here to cut your grass, senor. Okay, so my racist little accent aside, the reason I'm talking in a Mexican accent this time. Last time I pulled out the fishy Tennessee accent. This time it's a fishy Mexican accent because we're returning to Boozeporn on the bottle opener with another recurring guest, or first time recurring guests, I guess. Sauza Gold, Hornitos Black Barrel, and Don Julio Reposado. I've reviewed all of these things individually in the past on tasting notes, but I decided, in the same vein as reviewing Smoky Moonshine for a second time, I'm going to bring these back, but instead of reviewing them on their own, I'm going to do a little bit of a different throwback by doing a Boozeporn episode where I compare their flavor and rate them against each other. So that's what we're going to do today. And I'm going to start off a little bit by talking about what you can gather from the information on the bottle here. So as you'll notice, Sauza Gold has a lot of stuff to read there, but one of the things you won't notice here is that there's no statement saying that this is 100% agave. Instead, it just says made from fresh pressed blue agave. That's because Sauza, I believe, is a mix to tequila. Normally when they call themselves gold like this, it's because they haven't been aged in the style of a Reposado or a Añejo. It's because they have been caramelized by adding some extra source of sugar other than the agave into the distillate to give it some coloring, basically. Mostly a caramelizing effect, kind of the same way that oak barrels caramelize aged tequila. So on the other hand, you have Hornitos Black Barrel, which does have a statement that says 100% pure agave, double aged in whiskey barrels on top of that. So I talked about that in my previous review as well, and we'll get back to that in good time. Then of course we have the Don Julio, which is boxed for fancy effect, and same thing, on the bottle it says 100% agave. Right about in the center there, just below the name of the tequila. So, yeah, box. Very nice. We're going to start this stuff off with the Sauza, though, and then go to Hornitos Black Barrel, and then the Don Julio Reposado. So we have three gold tequilas, quote unquote. Three aged tequilas, again, quote unquote. Two of them are aged, but one is not. And they're also in three different price ranges. And as I was mentioning, mixed to means that it's been, the agave portion of the spirit has been diluted with another source of sugar, either in the distilling process or more likely afterwards, as they're giving it color. So, or again, they could be doing that for both steps, but we'll just take a step back and experience the Sauza Gold, which is very light in hue, you'll notice. Looks a lot like a Reposado would. Smells kind of like solvent. You do get some agave, but after drinking a lot of tequila, not tonight, but in general, a lot of good tequilas, I think I've become accustomed to a better, more fresh or more, a more aggressive agave undertone, which you can't really get as much with a mixed two. Blah. So not the greatest thing in the world. As I mentioned last time though, it isn't bad. It suits its purpose. That is, doing shots, using for margaritas, so as to get that flavor of tequila in there, but not to enjoy the actual experience. This stuff, on the other hand, I like quite a bit. And before we get into that too much, actually, I'll get you to look at the hue. It's very much more of a whiskey-colored spirit, and it does taste a lot like whiskey. But in my opinion, it can be better than some whiskeys. I know I'm kind of a whiskey fan in general, but I really like this stuff. And before we move on, I'm going to say a few more things about tequila. And basically, tequila gets its name from the city of Tequila. And it's basically a distillate based off of lots of base. Basically, it's a distillate based off of a fermented agave that the natives, the Aztecs and such, used to drink. I think it's the Aztecs in that area. Don't quote me on that. But the agave in this one area called Jalisco, which is the province or state that tequila sits in, it is of a better quality because it's kind of a volcanic region, and it's believed that the volcanic ash on the soil imparts some mineral qualities to agave that you can't get in the rest of the world. So basically, that's why when they say when tequila is ultra premium and it's hard to get because blue agave has such a long growing period, and also because they want it to be from this one region. You're not going to get tequila from another region. You might get something made in the style of tequila, but it's not going to be the same, right? It's going to be different. Same with something that was, say, made in the style of Scotch. It's not going to be Scotch. It's going to have some similarities, but it's going to be different. Maybe for better or worse. It really depends on that area and how the people living in that area take advantage of that area's properties. But regardless, this stuff, as I mentioned before, has been aged 3 times. I believe part of that is aging in Jack Daniel's barrels. And the thing about Jack is a lot of whiskey freaks, I guess you could say, don't really like Jack. They think the flavor's too sweet and anesthetizing, I guess. Not really a complex spirit. But this is completely my opinion. But on top of that, products that I've had that are aged in Jack Daniel's barrels are, for the most part, wonderful. And I'm not saying if that's because they were aged in barrels used to age Jack Daniel's. You could get the same effect from a bourbon barrel, maybe. I don't know, but whatever they're doing in this triple aging process for this tequila is really good. You get a lot of a sense of like maple, oak, and again agave undernotes here. It's a very palatable tequila. I actually want to check the percentage. I think it's 40. Yeah, it is. So this stuff is really delicious, as I've said in my previous tasting notes episode of this. Unlike the Sauza Gold, I have like no recoil on this at all. It still does have some of that alcoholic kick to it, of course, which some spirits don't at all. So you will have to be careful for that if you're like me, really accustomed to the actual taste of alcohol. For this one, I'm going to put it in a wine glass. Actually, I'll do a bit more. And this would be an ultra premium tequila, Don Julio Reposado. You'll notice the hue is much closer to the Sauza Gold. And they also list some tasting notes on the back here. Where is it? Aged for 8 months in American white oak barrels, Don Julio Reposado begins with subtle aromas of pear, apple, and lemon. Blah, 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 blah. I'll make up my own mind how it tastes. And that's what it's really about. That's what Boozeporn is about. It's about tasting things, making up my own mind, talking about the alcohol a little bit, and comparing them to other alcohols in the same category. So aroma-wise, this is a much, much more pleasant tequila than either of these ones. It tastes, or it smells like dessert, really. It smells like maple, like fresh baked pancakes with fruit on top of them. Let's say pear. That comes to mind, definitely. I don't sense much fruit though, like that is there to me, but not as much as they were listing there. The main source of, I guess, dessert odor, if you could call it that, would be the agave smell, which isn't as strong in this as the last two, believe it or not. But what about the taste? So again, a lot of maple flavor on that. Not as much as, say, a bourbon, but it is there and quite prominent. It's sweet in the way that a lot of agave flavoring tends to be sweet. It has some earthy notes. Kind of in the lingering finish, I do get a sense of soil, I guess you could say. Maybe that's from that volcanic ash I was talking about. And also part of that lingering finish, it's not just soil, it's soil and oak. So soil and oak, on the aroma side of thing, it's more of like a pancake with maple syrup and maybe pears. I guess you can say apples. I don't get the citrus notes that they mentioned, the lemon on the box. That's why I threw the box away. What else did I mention? Agave. Duh. Very, very prominent toffee or maybe a thick honey note, but more, I guess more like a hard toffee kind of flavor. So guys, how am I going to stack these up against each other? We have here in Canada, the $25 or $26 bottle of tequila, $40 bottle, $90 bottle. Which ones are better? Also, I like how I've ordered them up so that they're sending like that. I didn't do that on purpose. But, boy, obviously, I mean, it seems sorry, I shouldn't say obviously it seems obvious, but it seems obvious that you would go from this one to this one and scale better to worse. But I really like the Hornitos Black Barrel. So I want to, I'm going to give this the first spot, this the second, this the third. There isn't going to be any surprise mid-range or low-range tequila beating out the Don Julio. In my opinion, out of the tequilas I've tasted, Don Julio is probably one of the best, if not the best. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and say it is the best. This level of aging I find is really good with Don Julio as well. The Black Barrel I like a lot. So for this price range, I would be leaning more towards the Black Barrel, even despite the fact that I think this is a better tequila. This has a lot of qualities that I like in a spirit in general. It's not as complex as the Don Julio Reposado, but it is very complex. And if I was going to say the value of this tequila was $40 and this one was $90, I would much rather have 2 bottles of this and an extra $10 than get one of these. So that's my opinion. And coming from a quality standpoint as well, I would still want to go towards this one because it is very pleasurable for me, and this one is more, but it's not enough to offset the value of getting 2 of these, basically. So guys, this video is getting muchos lange, which probably doesn't mean anything, but I am not Mexican, and I will see you next time. Don't forget to subscribe if you like my videos, check out my other videos, like this video, and comment in the comment section below.
Say